Hello, React Native developers. What is going on? William, recording from beautiful Zurich, Switzerland. Today I'm joined with Timon, lead developer on the Poinz app. And to give a bit of context, Timon and I last summer worked on a new iteration of the Poinz app. The app is done in React Native, of course. And personally, I absolutely had a blast working on this project. Doing it during the summer, like, it was just fun with like a cool team, fun people, and I really had an amazing summer. And certainly, like, the working on the Poinz app was part of it. And so I wanted to make a video today with Timon on the channel, because with the Can It Be Done in React Native series, we looked at fancy proof of concepts and things which are a little bit on the cutting edge. But the Poinz app, like, here is a project where it's like a real world project. It needs to work. And I mean, you guys, I think, deliver the app to thousands and thousands of users. And maybe you can introduce the app to the subscriber briefly.
The app is really used by around 100,000 users every month. So
it's more than a couple thousand.
It's thousands of thousands.
Yes.
And it's a loyalty app. So we want to connect the local businesses with the customers. So actually, the local businesses, they can subscribe to Poinz, and then they can use our infrastructure to actually provide their campaigns through our app. That means a customer can go to the local hairdresser and scan a point, and every time he gets there, he scans another point until he has a few of them, and then he can redeem something, a reward. Maybe it's free, maybe he gets a discount or something. This is all defined by the business, actually. And at the moment, we have around 1,500 businesses throughout Switzerland, which is pretty big base, I would say.
Yeah, cool. Personally, what I really like about what you guys are doing is that you have like big businesses that can build digital solutions for everything. Customers loyalty, or booking, or whatever it is. And I really love that there are people like you guys that build platforms where that bring digital solutions to small businesses, and that cannot afford to build like such solutions themselves. And so I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the main points of Poinz. Exactly. As you said, like, small businesses, they just don't have the money to build their own apps. And also for the user, in the end, it's much more convenient to have one app. You can go to thousands of stores in Switzerland. You can scan something, and you don't have to use an app for every single business in the end.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. And so, first thing first, I haven't seen the code base since like around 5 months, I would say. And so I'm really curious to know what changed. And actually, we just met, and I said, "Hey, how is it going?" And you said, "Oh, we just made a release today, and what's up with this release?" And it's a new version without Expo. So what happened? So we got started. We used Expo right at the beginning, but from the beginning we used the detached version of Expo.
Yeah. So, I mean, we needed to use a detached version of Expo from the beginning, because we use data trends as our
payment
provider.
processing. Yeah.
Exactly, and so there was no way using Expo itself without any additional packages. And as you said, in the beginning we used it. It worked pretty well. I think it helped us to get up to speed quite a bit.
Yes.
But we also realized pretty soon that we have some issues with it, especially with Firebase. So until now, actually, we still had some bigger issues with push. So we had users that didn't receive push, and it was hard to debug because there's a lot going on in between. Expo has its own push service. We added Firebase to it, but it didn't seem to work properly. And also we had some issues with the over-the-air updates. So like people staying on a loading screen all the time, and it was and also people not receiving updates sometimes. So we felt that we had to change something. And I really still think like Expo it's a great project. I mean, they're doing amazing work. Really, it's so easy to get up to speed. But I think for a production app, it also limits you in some way, because you really need to stay within the Expo framework. If you want to use something outside like Firebase, it's going to be tricky. And so actually, as you said, we just, for the latest release, we completely removed the Expo dependency, which was quite some work actually. We expected it to be less.
Yeah. And so to do the migration was a strategy to create a new, basically empty React Native project and then move the code base to the like new boilerplate, or did you do it? Yeah, that's
exactly. I think that's the only way to do it, because Expo changes quite some bits, and if you want to have a clean setup afterwards, I think this is the only way to go. But still, we struggled a little bit there, because Expo uses that scoping on the React native local storage. So it means like it's a way to separate. If you have the Expo app, it separates like the different apps you have on there, so they have their own scoping, and it actually led to that we didn't have access to local storage anymore when we removed it. So we had to add some native code to copy the files before actually the React Native app starts, so that we get access to it again.
Okay. And so that's so that when people do the upgrades, they don't lose the local data that is on the app. Okay.
Yeah, because it would lock them out, and sometimes it's really a bigger issue than you would think if people get locked out, because they don't remember their email. They don't know which account they used to log in, and then you get tons of calls to the support team, and they have to tell them that they used this and that account. So that was no option for us. Yeah. Okay.
And must have been a lot of work to redo the whole setup, and then.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, actually, it's not that much, because most of the packages Expo uses, I mean, they are weighable as standalone packages as well, and they have normally the same API, so you just have to replace it.
Even like the file system one?
No, exactly. There are a few, exactly. I mean, there are a few that aren't the same, and we had to put a little bit more work into it. But I mean, there are packages for everything. It's really the community is really providing a lot. So but it still was, of course, it was some work. But we really have the feeling that now it's much more stable, especially with Firebase together. Because Firebase also handles a lot of stuff that Expo otherwise handles, like push, Crashlytics, stuff like that. And because Expo already it's integrated tightly, and it's hard to make them work side by side. Yeah. So I think it was a good decision. Also, like moving away from the over-the-air updates for now.
Yes.
This is one thing that I realized. You start with Expo and you get all those features just out of the box, and you don't think about how to use them or whether you need them. You just use them because they're there.
Yes.
And especially for the over-the-air updates, I think if we would have started without Expo, we would have thought much more about how we want to implement it, what should be the user experience when they receive over-the-air updates, and we just didn't do it properly. So in the end, it just wasn't the experience that we wanted to deliver in the end.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because for instance, I guess if you send a marketing email and there is a link, you need to, I mean, I guess even in native it's hard to achieve, but you want to make sure that when opening the link, the latest version of the app is loaded and things like this. But then what happens if you have a poor internet connection or
exactly.
This is very...
Exactly. And I don't say you can't do it. It's just like you need to put a lot of thought into it. Because if you don't, you just end up somewhere where it's not clear what's supposed to happen. And then it's obviously also not a nice thing in the end.
And if you need to put back the over-the-air updates, you would use code push, or is that does it still exist? I thought it was discontinued at some point, but no. Okay.
No, I mean it's actually even the code push, React Native code push, is more stars than the Expo repo, so it's still a pretty I think lots of people use it, and if we at some point, and I think we will, add over-the-air updates again, we will definitely use code push, or at least check it out and see whether it fits our needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are there some other dramatic changes that happened to the app? So for instance, I remember, so we use Flow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if we were to do it again today, maybe would we use Java TypeScript? I think so.
I think we would. Yeah,
we would. I mean, now with the Babel integration.
Exactly, and also like I think Expo also
switched as well. Yeah, true.
So at the moment, it really looks like it's shifting a little bit towards TypeScript, but still, I think Flow is still. I mean, it's good that we have static type checking. This is the most important. For
Absolutely.
Sure, right? Yeah, because there's really countless times that you just don't see it, and then you run Flow, and then you catch some bug, which would be really hard to catch otherwise.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember when we worked on this project, some of the static errors we were getting were just absolutely amazing. And for instance, with translation, if a key was missing or all sorts of stuff was really, and with the whole data model, and if you refactor something, this is,
of course, definitely. But probably we would go for.
But basically, I mean, well, last time also I worked on this project, we were basically stuck with the version of Flow we could use for this project. I mean, stuck, I guess it matches the version of React Native we're using, so.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, especially when you use Expo, I mean, you use the React Native version that's provided by Expo, so their own fork, and then you can't upgrade, you can't use the latest Flow. There's just no way. And maybe it becomes better, but still, I mean, now for us it would be a big thing to move from Flow to TypeScript.
Yes.
So it's just at the moment it wouldn't. I mean, we wouldn't benefit enough to actually do it. But
it also would be a huge thing to migrate from your current version of Flow to the latest one.
I'm not sure. I mean, now we upgraded quite a bit when we removed Expo, so I'm not quite sure which version we use, but normally it's not that difficult. I think. I mean, it depends when you really just silence or ignore the errors from other. But that's the problem. This we cannot do in. So what happens? Just to give maybe some context, we use the script, but or did we? No, we didn't. No, we didn't use this solution. But now they added like this which doesn't work. Yeah, but for us it seems to be more or less at least. I mean, when I last upgraded it was okay. How is this option called? I forgot. So basic declarations, yes. And for you guys it works. Because for me it doesn't work, and there is a none. Okay. I mean, I'm not even quite sure which version we use right now. Okay. But I think it's 0.8. Are we using 0.8 something? I think we are, but I'm not. Because I was so excited, and so I migrated, and then this option didn't work for me, and I think there's an open issue that seems to be exactly like. Okay. But good to know if maybe it has been fixed, or I don't know. I'm really and on that one. Also, I'm not following a lot like exactly the communities and everything, but I have the feeling that Flow is pushing maybe less now the open source stuff. They seems to not be so as vocal as they used to be in terms of like pushing Flow to the developer community. Yeah. Do you have also the same feeling, or? I have the same feeling, but actually I have the feeling it's been like that for some time now. Yes, already. Couple of months I would say. Yeah. And especially really now, I think if you look around a little bit, you really get the feeling that a lot of people are moving towards TypeScript. So I don't know. For us, it's really. I think really the most important thing is to use some static type checker. Absolutely. And if I would start a new project right now, I think I would go for TypeScript. Yes. Especially with the Babel plugin now. But Flow is fine for us, I guess. And so lately, I worked on a project with a React project in TypeScript with the Babel integration. Yeah. And so So at the moment you cannot yet use ESLint rules, so you still have to use TSLint. Yeah, I saw that. And so I try to see how far you can go with TSLint. You cannot go as far as you have such amazing plugins with ESLint, but it's still not at the same level. But it sounds like at some point we're gonna be able to use ESLint. Yeah, and then it's gonna be really cool. I'm really looking forward to that, because it's the same for me. I tried it out, but TSLint is just much less powerful than ESLint is. Yeah, right now. Absolutely. Yeah. So this is also kind of at the moment it would be a deal killer, I think. because it's
Mm.
ESLint is really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
No, please.
Yeah. So one other thing that we worked a little bit on is the navigation.
Yeah.
So when we started with it, we use React Navigation. We still use React Navigation because I think it's a really good library. And also it's really actively worked on. There are always new features. But what we try to do now is, I don't know if you remember that. So the way we navigate, we had this. We kind of when we log in, we kind of like notify the navigator that we're ready, and then or that the auth status changed, and then
Yes.
that one navigates.
Yeah.
So what we're trying right now is to make it a little bit more top level. So we created our own router that kind of, so we always directly link with directly navigate, for example, to the app without the login, and then we intercept it. So our router checks, this route needs to be authenticated, and if it needs to be authenticated, it kind of pushes another action in between, and like just passes like the original action as a parameter. And the reason we do this is because we want to actually have the whole app. Also, we want to be able to go everywhere in the app with deep links.
Yes.
And like this, we can just push a deep link, or with a message, just pass a deep link, like just a path in the end, and then the app will know where to go, and we don't need to think about whether we first need to go to the login screen, stuff like that. Everything is going to be handled by the router.
So is it done with higher order components?
No, it's actually, React Navigation provides this way to just extend the router.
Okay.
So we just use the normal router, but check for a few locations in the app, and if we want to go there, we actually check if we're logged in and push the actions in between. I think it's pretty
that
cool.
Sounds really cool. Yeah. I need to see this.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is one thing. Yeah.
And how's deep linking going? All good?
I think it's also much more stable now without Expo.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. Because this is also something. It's also like handled by Firebase.
Yeah.
And if you have both of them, it's just not as stable. Yeah.
Okay.
We still have some. Yeah. Somehow still not all deep links really go through, especially on iOS. If you use them a few times after, like in a short period, somehow not all of them get through. But I think it's acceptable for now. Yeah.
And speaking of navigation, actually, if I can maybe open the app here on my. So we did like a custom navigator, right?
Yeah.
For this, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's this like double drawer here, and so it's like a tabs, but we have like two drawers also on, and we used. So in React Navigation, you can build like custom navigators, which I think is really cool. Yeah. And that solved exactly like the problem we try to solve.
Yeah, I mean exactly.
And then, so I remember, so we used setState to do the whole state management, right?
Yeah.
But I remember that we were hitting some edge cases where the state management was getting really complex, especially with navigation.
Yeah.
When you want to redirect to a certain state of the app, where maybe you have a stack container with, different screens on the stack which have different states, and you want to specify in maybe one call, I want to be at, open this stack where each screen has exactly this state, and I remember it was like not super clean, I guess, the way we did it. Or I wouldn't say not clean, but
I mean for the navigation, I think we just use navigation actions. No, I mean to even go to a nested stack navigator.
But I remember that at some point we would say, you would scan code, and we would say, okay, it worked. Then we would change some state, and we would do push with some parameters, like imperatively, but
I can't remember exactly, but I mean, this we want to solve now, because with React Navigation, you can actually really create an action that takes you anywhere in the app, and for each screen you give
you can define all the
parameters, and you just dispatch that action.
Yes.
And that works pretty well, I have to say.
I guess that's really the way to go.
Yeah. But one other thing related, like to, we were talking a lot about using these, whether we should use the context API only or whether we should use Redux.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, that was when we got started with the project. That was the biggest point of discussion where we were not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there, I mean, I still think we went a good way, the way we did, and we did some fancy stuff with these like providers that we actually provided access to some static methods that still change the context. I don't know if you recall that.
Yes.
And
I mean, just maybe to give some context a bit. So what we did, we had these providers that we would instantiate only once in the app, which makes sense. And instead of usually what you do if you have let's say a theme provider and you have maybe a set theme method where you want to change the colors, you would pass this set theme method to the consumer, and then the consumer would have this set theme function that you can call to make some change. And this gets very easily cumbersome because you can have many methods to manage stuff, and then you need every time to pass everything as parameter. And so the way we did it is that basically we use the provider as a singleton, because we know there is only, as soon as it's mounted, we know there is only one instance, and then you can use a get instance and access like all the methods of the provider directly.
Yeah, exactly. And I still think it's fine to do it.
It works. I'm a bit worried that I haven't seen anyone else doing it. So it's like,
and I also,
why?
I mean now, it would also be like really. I think the cleaner way to do that is just to don't do it static at all, nothing static, and just when you actually mount, or when you mount the component, the context, the component that holds the context actually, you just pass a reference and store that reference somewhere statically. So that way it's more kind of the React way to do it, I would say, because you don't have to define or to declare all the methods static on the class, it just doesn't feel right. I don't know if it's wrong to do, but
no, makes sense.
You know what I mean.
But where would you store the reference?
So if you like, so for example, you could like just pass you pass a property to the context, to the provider, set reference or whatever, and then you as soon as it's mounted, you set that reference, and then you have that object. I don't know, you can have it wherever you want actually. It doesn't matter, but you just pass it in when you mount it. And I think it's a bit cleaner.
But so you say all the methods are static, it's because of the singleton we have to make?
Yeah, exactly. Because what we wanted to do is, like, for example, if we want to show a snack bar, for example, somewhere in the app, and so lots of components, they just want to add notifications to the snack bar, but they don't need to re-render based on whether the snack bar is there or not. So they don't actually need to consume the context, but they just need to call methods on it. So for that, we didn't want to use a consumer and call the method which is stored in the context, but actually wanted to be able to call it directly. And therefore we needed to make them static in the end. Right? So, but it's yeah. But actually to this topic, I think if I would start from the beginning again, I would really consider using Redux for stuff like that, because I think it makes a few things easier. So you don't have to. You just dispatch actions for stuff like that. And you're good. No,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But so Redux or Redux Saga? Or
yeah, I think it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay.
Just Redux, and if you use asynchronous, whatever you want, like Redux Saga, Redux Thunk.
I mean, so personally, as you know, I'm getting easily overwhelmed by all the boilerplate you need to when you're using like Redux and so on. But I do have to say that we did reach this some, like for the complex cases, like the age of where you set state and so on,
and especially, I mean, you have to, if you don't use Redux, in the end you end up creating contexts for a lot of things.
Yes.
And this is also kind of, I mean, you add code for that all the time, And it also feels like, oh no, now I
And
have
you
to.
also have the high order components everywhere.
Exactly.
And yeah.
And then sometimes if one component needs access to multiple contexts, so then you have like with that, you have like a lot of higher order components wrapped around your component. And I don't know, I think for a certain complexity, it really starts to make sense to use Redux. But the thing is, when you start, you don't know when you should use Redux, and then as your app becomes more complex, it would also mean more effort to actually switch to using Redux. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But so that's why so I have the same venue. In my projects I have like contexts everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm excited about hooks, because I feel like it's gonna help, because no more higher order components.
Yeah.
So no more like hierarchical structure where it actually doesn't really make sense to have one.
Yeah.
And so I'm following a couple of issues on GitHub to see how with React Native how well it works at the moment.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to experiment with it.
Yeah.
But
it sounds really promising. It's just like, again, like I think, if you start a project from scratch, then you can use it directly. But for us, we would have to wait quite some time before we really sure that this is, that we can use it the way we want to. Because in the end, it's always a lot of effort if you're like switching to another structure.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But yeah.
Especially this feature, it's not even ready yet.
Exactly. Sometimes it feels like, I want to use it, but we just can't.
And it's not even officially supported like in React Native or so.
No. Yeah.
But I was wondering, I need to play with it. Like for instance, I was wondering if you could, I guess you can, I don't know, like you would write a class component. Yeah. And you will have like your class component, but then instead of using higher order component, you would use context. So you could use the hooks within a class component. So you would keep your class component, you don't change it, and then in the render function, you would instead of having like a higher order component, you would use context. All
right.
And if you probably have. That's not how it works, I think.
I'm not
but
sure.
If you could, then that would be really cool, because you could like really slowly migrate and I don't know, but
you mean like so you could still keep your class components and gradually migrate. Maybe
there is some listeners who have already played with hooks and they're listening to us. They're like, what is this guy talking about? But I want to experiment with with this. And what else? I think we used SVG module from Expo.
Yeah.
This you imported the new.
I just replaced it with React Native SVG.
Yes.
Which is what's used by Expo as well in the end. Yeah.
And so file system, what did you?
React Native FS.
Okay. Yeah. I heard about this one.
Yeah.
And was it easy to?
Yeah, it's basically it's easy to use. It's similar. It's really similar. But still, until you really get it behave exactly the same, it just takes some time, I guess, because you're not, especially for the cache. You only use it there, right?
For the cache images, yes.
Yeah.
But then you can make a PR to the open source, because everyone is asking me. I have this open source project for the image caching, and everyone is asking like, what if I'm not using Expo? So maybe you can contribute, right? I don't know.
And there's a few other things I noticed there. I think we could improve it a little bit. Like
on the image caching?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but again, I'm waiting for the maintainer of that great, React Native, the cache.
To answer. No. No, for sure. But one thing, for instance, I did try to improve, and with the file system API was not really possible at the time, was to, if you load images, but then switch to something else, cancel the requests. Yeah. You can use download resumable async, but that didn't work as expected.
Okay.
But
I think we're not doing that right now. So
no, absolutely,
but it's okay. It's just also like cleaning the cache, like setting a max size for the cache.
That's also a very
really,
requested feature.
Really
yes.
do that, yeah. But
okay, we'll talk later.
yeah.
And at the time, so we so React Native Gesture Handler and React Native Reanimated were already released last summer.
Yeah.
But we didn't really knew about it. Like I was reading about it and like, oh, it looks cool, but I didn't realize how like mind blowing this is. But now you guys are using it.
Yeah, I mean, Reanimated actually we're not using right now. We're still using the React Native Animated API, which is fine for us because we don't have like that complex animations. But also we don't have the time to spend too much time on animations actually, which I'd love to do, but you also need to focus on bug fixing and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But the gesture handler we're using, and this is really, it's really
amazing.
I mean, when we first implemented also the drawers and the swipeable to delete, we didn't use it, and it was much less fluent.
Absolutely, and we spent a lot of time on it, and it was not so. Yeah,
and it's really simple and easy to use the API of the gesture handler. It's really great.
Yeah,
I love it.
No, it's really cool. Yeah. And so same, it's funny because you said, if we were to do this again, usually when I do a project, like 6 months later, I'm like, wow, if I were to redo this again, like I would do it so differently. I mean, that's typical of like software engineering, I would say. Yeah. But, and of course, like if I were to redo this project again, I would do some things differently, but nothing dramatic. Like,
I mean, like from the whole, how we set it up, and I think it's okay. I mean, we would change a few things, but really nothing dramatic. But of course, there are other aspects of the app, like the home screen, which will be updated like with the next update. We're gonna finally have a meaningful home screen, but stuff like that. I mean, it's not engineering itself; it's also like designing the app. But there, we could have made a much better job in the end. Yeah, I think. Yeah, but from the React Native side, I still feel it's pretty okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think last time we met, you said maybe you guys are gonna do. So you guys have another small apps for the merchants.
Yeah.
And you were thinking maybe of like doing an experiment with Flutter to.
Yes, I mean, this is we've discussed this a few times. Like, what really sucks about React Native is that you do stuff, you develop it on your iPhone, and then you run it on Android, and you just see that stuff
that was a big
doesn't like work as you would expect.
Yes.
And sometimes it's really frustrating because you just can't make it as good as for iOS. And
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you would have to put a lot of effort really writing native code, which we just, as we're only 4 people developing, we don't have the capacity to do that, right? And that's why we think Flutter might be interesting for us, because it comes a little bit more from the Android side. I mean, it's Google behind it, right? And also, I mean, the Poinz App that we're talking about, it's the app for the stores actually that's going to display the QR codes. It's a really simple app. We don't need a lot of animations there, stuff like that. But we think about using Flutter just to get used to it, because it might become more important in the future, and it would be definitely interesting to check it out. Yeah,
absolutely. I should check it out too.
Yeah, I think so.
You saw I did the clone the animation app, but
of course, the one
because so it's actually Timon who showed me this demo, and I was like, oh my, like, can we do this in React Native? And but so I only like looked at the source code but I didn't run anything on my machine. But I feel like such great innovation like Flutter. I mean, I've been obviously inspired by React Native,
of course,
and then it's inspiring back.
Of course,
Flutter is like some inspiration goes back then to React Native, and they seem to have like a positive influence to each other.
Yeah.
So I also feel like I should.
And like, it's really it takes core concepts from React in the end to the way it's built.
Yeah.
It's just like, it uses Dart, so it compiles directly to native code, right?
Yeah.
And this might make it really powerful in the end.
Yes.
And also, of course, Dart is not used that much yet, but you kind of also get because it's a typed language, you get the flow.
True.
Yeah, you get that.
Yeah.
Somehow. But of course, I mean, I don't know Dart well, and but I definitely want to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I just, me, I'm just so lazy because, I know that I have to, I know CSS, I know JavaScript.
Yeah.
But I just, I'm going to need to learn a new, layout system and so on.
But I mean, for the layout, in the end, it doesn't use JSX. But for the layout, I mean, it's also based on the Flex box stuff. So there, I think for the layout, it's pretty much the same. I mean, I haven't used it that extensively, so but.
And hopefully, the Dart language shouldn't be so hard, right?
No,
to learn.
I think. I mean, I did some simple stuff there, but still, you're just not used to it the way you're used to writing JavaScript because you just haven't done it that much, right?
Yeah.
And it always feels like, oh no. You would exactly know how to do it with JavaScript, then you have to check how you do it in Dart. I think that's the biggest thing, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So if people want to find out more about the Poinz app or engineering at Poinz app, are you guys maybe hiring people in React or on development or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're really happy to find people who are interested in React Native to join our team. I mean, they're not too
and
many.
Flutter.
And yeah. So yeah, if anyone's interested, it would be great to. Yeah, I mean, they can ping us on LinkedIn or write a mail to info@poinz.ch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Cool. So Simon, thank you so much. Ciao, guys.
Bye, guys.